So moving on then, CLSA's note is what we got early this morning. They say that India's furniture market is undergoing a major shift with a move towards ready-made furniture and a rising preference for MDF, that's medium density fiber. That's over plywood, and that's precisely what's happening in the global markets as well. To talk more about that, what are the opportunities in the MDF segment, we have Mr. Keshav Bhajanka, the Executive Director of the company, who joins in. Hi Keshav, thanks so much for joining in. Well, if you could give us a sense of the MDF plant that you had commissioned in the last few months. It was running at around 50% capacity utilization levels, right? How do you expect it to scale up? And in terms of a contribution to your revenues, what can it scale up to in FY19 as well as FY20?
You see, MDF for us has done quite well in the first quarter. Our quality has been accepted by the market. People are saying that it is perhaps the best quality that is available in the market. And as such, the retail offtake has been very good. In the current financial year, I see a turnover of close to 125 to 130 crores from MDF. And going forward in the next financial year, we'll definitely be looking at a turnover of 300 crores plus.
Okay. So 125 to 130 crore in FY18, FY19 should be about 300 crore. Hi Keshav, good afternoon. If you could just give us a sense of how big the MDF market is. What is the current size of that in India? What would the market share of Century Ply be, considering that you are a new entrant into this particular market? And what is the growth of MDF vis-a-vis, say, the plywood market?
In the current year, I would say that the total size of the MDF market would be somewhere around 2,000 to 2,200 crores. On the higher side, considering all inputs, it could go up to about 2,500 crores. Considering the fact that we'd end the year at a turnover of 125 crores plus, I'd be looking at a market share of 5% plus. Going forward, obviously, this market share will increase. The current financial year, we are only operating from Q3, so we only cover 2 quarters. Going forward, you see, the total size of the MDF market in India today is less than, the production capacity is less than 1 million cubic meters per annum. Whereas in China, the total production capacity is close to 40 million cubic meters per annum. So going forward, I see there's going to be a rapid growth in this market, and we should be able to gain market share alongside that growth.
Growing faster than plywood? And how are the margins looking?
The margins for MDF are higher. I'm talking about EBITDA margins, primarily because the interest cost and the depreciation cost in MDF is higher, as MDF has a 1:1.25 asset turnover ratio at best, whereas plywood has a 1:5 asset turnover ratio. Having said that, going forward, the growth of the MDF market is likely to be faster because the plywood market is already at close to 18 to 20,000 crores, and internationally we have seen that MDF is close to 60 to 70% size of plywood market in most other economies, whereas in India it is close to 10%. So definitely the rate of growth of MDF is likely to be faster than that of plywood.
How many plants do you have of MDF as of now?
Currently we have only one plant. Going forward,
your plant is in Punjab, right?
Yes, it is in Hoshiarpur, which is towards the northern part of Punjab.
Okay, so do you plan on setting up a couple of more plants? So just going through a couple of notes, they're talking about you setting up in Uttar Pradesh as an Assam. Are you looking at that? Is that possible? Do you have the funds for that?
Yes, I don't think funding is a challenge for us. Our cash flows are very good at the moment. In MDF, the cost of transportation is a very high percentage of revenue. As such, geographical proximity will ensure that the margins are better. So we are exploring all possible options, but we have no frozen capex plans at the moment.
Okay. So next year, when you are estimating that your revenues will be 300 crore, you will be operating at what capacity utilization? Are you hitting a peak over here?
No, we will be operating at 70% plus. I'm sure the realization will be further better, but at the moment we are anticipating operations at 70% plus capacity utilization.
All right, getting to your entire business then, you're sounding quite positive on the MDF business, but what kind of total revenue growth are you looking at for FY19, Keshav, if you give us a sense of that? And if MDF is going to be growing at a fast clip, then your margins should expand from here, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. Our margins are definitely going to expand at the EBITDA level. And going forward in the next financial year, I'm looking at 20% plus growth.
Okay.
We are looking at close to 20 to 25% growth.
And what about margins? I think in the last quarter you did around 17.5%. You can better that number?
Yes, definitely.
100, 200 basis points. Some guidance, Keshav.
100 basis points.
Okay. Coming back to the NDF business, you're saying that in FY19 at 70% capacity utilization, you could do close to about 300 crores. So assuming, even in the best case, that you go up to 100% capacity utilization, your peak revenues would still be capped at 420, 430 crore, right? So how would you plan to tackle that?
Easy. An expansion in the current plant is possible. We have created a facility with the provision to expand the capacity by 70%. And that expansion would not take more than 9 months to implement. On the higher side, maybe 10 months. And going forward, as I told you, we are looking at other options, other locations where we could set up MDF manufacturing units. And we are aggressively exploring the same. So we're going to wait and see how the market pans out. For us to set up a new capacity would take close to 12 to 14 months. So I think we're in a good position as regards to setting up a new capacity. And going forward, we're exploring all possible options available to us.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So that's the word coming in from Century Ply, that yes, the NDF market is growing pretty fast. It's currently at a much smaller scale compared to, say, something like a China. And that is an area that Century Ply is aggressively looking at. Get into a break. When we return, we'll get chatting about the markets with Ashwini Gujral and Rajat Bose.